Welcome to Massive Beers. My name is Matt. We apparently do whiskey stuff here. Loose term whiskey. Distilled, liquor. We don't do it that often. We've done a couple here and there. But we're going to be doing this as a kind of second parter, as an homage to one of our favorite breweries. That'd be the old Schlenkerla. We just reviewed this beer. We're going to do this actual beer review as a separate video. So when this gets posted. So if you're watching this and you haven't watched that, I'd watch this one first, then move on to this one, because we're a little bit more familiar with beer. But I will retell the story if somebody doesn't want to watch that other review. It's basically, I was traveling, going to Beer Tube Palooza. I was passing by the importer of Schlenkerla, Be United. They're up in Connecticut, and I was in the hunt for this beer. I knew they'd have it. They're the importer. They have to have it. Not that they have to have it, but they would have it. And they have a brewery attached. They're sitting there drinking at the brewery. And when you drink at the brewery that is part of Be United, OEC, they kind of have all their wares kind of in the tap room. Kind of like you can just walk up and just grab it and be like, I'm going to buy this. You know, that kind of thing going on. And I saw this. And I grabbed it. I was like, yeah, I'm definitely leaving with a 4-pack of this. And I was sitting there drinking, and, having a couple beers. Not a lot. I had 3 beers while I was there. And then I was like, let me take a walk around and see what else. And then I kept going to the section where it went from beer to, like, rice beer to, like, almost like sake type stuff to, like, liquor. And I'm like, I don't mess with liquor. I just don't do it. And then I popped up and I went, wait a minute. And I walked over, looked, lo and behold, they had this. The Schlenkerla Distilled, which is basically they made liquor from the base beer, and however way they did it. I've always wanted to get this. They had it there. A little bit pricey. Not super expensive in a spirit world, but I'm not a big spirit person. Bartender actually had a bottle. Let me try it. Immediately said, sold. Got myself a bottle. Now, what are we drinking right now? It says distilled from Schlenkerla smoke beer and finished on fresh smoked malt. So they're basically making a malt-based whiskey and resting it on smoked malt. Schlenkerla smoke malt Rauchbier spirit, unfiltered. There's 2 versions. The unfiltered version. The bartender, and I think he was, a person that worked there for a billion years. It's more than a bartender, but he's like, this is the one you want. Product Germany. Traditional Franconian spirits distilled from grain and distilled with hops. Okay, so there's hops involved. 40% alcohol, so 80 proof. Serve at room temperature, which is that. And that's all we get. Unfiltered. Very basic. That's your front label on the back. That's your back label. So yeah. Let's see what we got going on here. Oop. Let's do it right. ASMR. Hopefully that sounded better. Got a little Glenmorangie dram here. That's enough for me. So, as I said, I tasted this at the importer, so it's not like I'm going into this blind. But I have not had it since then. Well, Beer Tube Palooza a day after. So yeah. I mean, it definitely looks the part of whiskey, Still, very much amber in color. Not much else to it. Decent legs on this sucker. You're talking about something that's, 40% alcohol, 80 proof. So, I'm not sure if you can make out the legs on this sucker. But it definitely looks the part. Let's even get a nose. Preforming opinions, because like I said, I had it before, and there's a big reason why that I bought this is because, and this is not going to be a great review, like I said, I'm not a liquor connoisseur, but my favorite spirit, I have 2 favorite spirits. One is gin and tonics, just because that's like drinking 7-Up and then alcoholic 7-Up, and in the summer there's nothing quite like a gin and tonic. Again, that's just that's the Pilsner of the liquor world for me. Spirit-wise, it's Scotch. More specifically, Speyside Scotch. Non-peaty, non-smoky Speyside Scotch. This is going to be a really ironic kind of conversation. And that's what I'm really getting here. Maybe more Highland Scotch, which is kind of appropriately a Glenmorangie. Very much Highland Scotch, non-peaty, non-smoky. Again, very funny because it's Schlenkerla, but it very much is that kind of rich never use this word for spirits, except for when it comes to scotch. Leathery, old leathery, smoking jacket kind of thing going on here. Tobacco-y, smoky kind of richness, which is what I covet when it comes to spirits, which is why I dig scotch, why I dig Speyside scotch. And I get that very much. I got that and very much get that on the nose here. You know, just a rich sweetness, almost like a caramel mixed with like orange marmalade. And just this leathery, kind of old granddaddy, like old person, not the actual spirit old granddad. Like just old person kind of leatheriness. You know, you walk into somebody's house and they have a bunch of leather couches. You know what I mean? You sit in it and it just smells like an old, musty, leathery house. Very Ron Burgundy, rich mahogany and leather. Kind of what you expect like Fraser's house to smell like. It smells like that to me, in a very fruity way, too. That's the thing about it. It comes off super, super fruity. Very, very fruity. Like, it very much reminds me of some of the better Speyside scotches that I've had. And I've been lucky enough to have a ton. I had a good friend, old good friend of mine, Wade. You know, I haven't spoken to him in years. We had a falling out, unfortunately. But, you know, he used to be very, very generous and share a bunch of different... Something just landed on me, a bug. I'm scared of bugs. A lot of like 50, 60-year-old bottles of Speyside scotch. And it is some of my favorite stuff I've ever had. There's something flying around in this room. And this is very much what it reminds me of. Not as rich as that, but very much that. So we're just going to dive in. Cheers, y'all. Okay. It's kind of cool diving into it because, you know, my first taste of this was at the distributor. And then I opened some and gave some to everybody at Beer Tube Palooza. A lot of drinking involved. You know, not necessarily at the distributor, but, you know, Beer Tube Palooza, I think it was Saturday, end of night. I opened this up, shared some with a bunch of people. You know, we just drank a bunch of stouts and stuff. Coming off way more fruity. Even on the nose, I thought it was a little bit more fruity now than I remembered, but very much a super fruit forward, super red fruit forward, super, like almost like an apple cherry mixture is kind of how it's coming off for me. With that leathery component. This is really good. Honestly, it almost like, and I know, like, you know, again, there's so much fancy, expensive liquor out there. It reminds me of a really nice Speyside scotch. So take like a Glen Ross Speyside scotch and mix it a little bit like Crown Royal. I know people might be like, well, that's pretty shitty, Crown Royal. I like Crown Royal. You know, and I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. I don't know if Crown Royal is looked at as hot garbage or whatever. But it's almost, or it maybe put it in a more highfalutin sense. It very much was more like a Scotch cognac mixture for me. Maybe that makes a little bit more kind of cool sense to people. But it has this kind of this DNA of Scotch, but it has this fruitiness that I rarely get at this level in Scotch that I attribute more to like a cognac, something along those lines. Almost like it like, you know, some kind of fortified wine kind of fruitiness. So maybe that's what I'm getting more from it, is more a rich red kind of grapiness from it. Because every time I smell it and taste it, I think more of like fortified wine. In the back end, like the Scotch is the leader of the clubhouse. Like if we're talking about, like I'm going to mix, you know, cognac and I'm going to mix, you know, this together or Scotch together to get this. It's like 3/4 Scotch, 1/4 kind of cognac kind of vibe to it. Even though the fruit component is very big, I think it's like a compound effect, because it definitely is a fruit component when I get a lot of Speyside Highland Scotches, but not nearly as vibrant as this. So it's almost like that portion of the Scotch is cranked up. That's delicious. Honestly, you know, I'm not a big spirit person. I will say that through and through. I enjoy it quite a bit. My fatal flaw when it comes to drinking spirits is that this is a beer. This is a spirit. If you gave me 2 glasses of these of equal volume, I would drink them almost equally as same pace. I don't think about it. I'm just like sip, 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 sip. And I'm like, on this, I just go sip, 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 sip. And I go, oh shit. that really happened. So it's not so much that I don't indulge in spirits all that much. It's just on a much lesser scale, but just because I'll drink crap out of it. But this is very, very good. You know, like, I've been gifted some spirits from a couple different, like, producers or distributors of spirits for the channel. I've had people that have made beer in specific spirit barrels or aged them in spirit barrels, and they've sent me the beer and some of the spirit from the spirit barrel. You know, that kind of thing. So I've touched on spirits on the channel here and there over the years. And never have claimed to be anybody close to an expert or even knowledgeable on the subject. But I think when it comes down to it, whether it be beer or liquor or whatever, it's if you like it. If it's flavorful and it's a flavor that you really enjoy. This is a flavor I really enjoy. And while it admittedly, I think it comes off a little bit different than what I remember tasting in that tap room, it's equally as good. That fruit component, which I didn't really get all that much from the first one. I don't know, maybe I've opened the bottle and there's something about this is oxidized in a certain sense and it's opened up a little bit of it. I don't know. If that's the case, let me know if that's something that can actually happen. If it's the case, then this is getting better for me. You know, I don't know if that's possible, but this beer is kind of, whether it's kind of oxidized, blown off, whatever the words would be in the spirit world of something. Because I know, like, you know, a bottle of spirit, like you buy a 6-year-old bottle of scotch and then wait 40 years. It's not a 100-year-old bottle of scotch. It's still a 60-year-old bottle of scotch when it leaves the barrel. But that liquor, that liquid has to morph and change in some way. And I believe this actually is morph and change in a slight way and add a bit of fruitiness to it. And I think that is a very, very positive thing. That's delicious. Let me take a sip of the beer. I'm really curious. My monitor went off. There you go. Use it for light. This is a fun. I don't think it's a great fun side by side. I think the spirit actually crushes over the top of the beer. But I think it's a very, very fun spirit and a very well-made spirit. You know, from my very, very unknowledgeable areas of expertise, but having had the luxury of having some really, really tasty stuff that I think at least gives me a perception point, a data point, something to be like, okay, I kind of know what really good is, and I kind of know what really bad is. I couldn't speak to the nuances of everything in between, but I'm very, very glad I picked this up. And I'll say this too, you know, this is probably one of the more disjointed things because I just don't know what to say because it's, you know, on the spirit end of things. If I went into this, I bought this because I love Schlenkerla, and I was very, very, very interested in how their distillate would come out. If I expected it to taste like their Rauchbier, which I did, but that's all I cared about, I would be disappointed. I think I would. Because I think they're so far away from each other, and while they might share some similarities, because this is a different beer than this, so it's not like I'm drinking side by sides, but it's very much so removed from smoke beer realm that it ends up in the, you know, Highland / Speyside whiskey realm for me. I kind of lucked out because that's what I love, and it ended up being adjacent to that for me. But if you're like a Schlenkerla lover and you don't like spirits and you drink this, I don't think you're getting like that big Rauchbier kind of component off it. But in the grand scheme of things, it worked out for me, so I win. There you go. I don't even know what else to say. That's why I said that. Anyway, fun. That's what we had here. We had fun. We sat, drank a little bit of smoke goodness. We'll post that review. Go watch that one. We'll post this as a separate video about me talking about it. And honestly, you know, in the grand scheme of things, I think it's a really well-made spirit. And this is a portion of the show where I'm really going to lean into anybody that watches this that is very into spirit, whiskey, those kind of things. have you had this? That's the conversation I really want to have. If you fancy yourself a liquor, a spirit, a whiskey connoisseur, more specifically Scotch, or at least be decently familiar with single malt Scotch, and you have had this, how far off do you think I am? And like, what do you think about it? Like, is it a well-made spirit? They didn't make it. Who made it? I actually didn't call it. It says produced by Hellertrum, Bamberg, Germany. Oh, it's them. I think someone, obviously, I think somebody helped them in making it. But regardless, have you had this? What are your thoughts on it? Is it something that is like, you think it's a great, well-made spirit? You think it's just a novelty? All those things. That's the things I want to know. Because as someone who's a little bit defunct in that kind of expertise of that subject when it comes to spirits, it's just that gap I need to be bridged, and I really think it'd be fun for somebody to kind of bridge that gap for me. So there you go. Reviewing the book. So hopefully you enjoyed this review. A little out of the norm, but very fun nonetheless. Hopefully you're enjoying a little bit of a smoky spirit right now. We'll see you next time. Cheers, y'all.